My name is Brian Paige. I'm an attorney, first and foremost, but I'm also the Chief Legal Officer of Trust Guss Injury Lawyers. We are headquartered in Houston. We have offices in New Orleans, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles. I'm at the executive table, but I also run and manage the litigation department at our firm. So it's kind of a hybrid position, and that's kind of what we came up with to give me a better description of kind of what I do. It's a good point because that goes back to the overall client experience, right? And to add to what Sean said, we're trying to meet the client where they're at, right? We're trying to talk with them on the phone if it's that, or give them an app to make it easier to communicate with us, all with the mission of making their overall experience as positive as possible in a time when, again, it could be the worst time of their life. So that's kind of what we focus on from the moment they're injured until the moment we hand them a check or a jury hands down a verdict. We try to stay one step ahead of the client in terms of providing them what they may need in those moments throughout the course of the case. It's also, the reality is, from a business perspective, we're competing with other folks in our market. And if using the tools the way that we are, trying to get that advantage, trying to offer the better experience, that's going to pay dividends in the future, right? And we're living in a society now where everybody's looking for the 5-star reviews from the services that they're using. So if we can get to that point, ultimately it's going to be better for the longevity and just the overall positive results for the firm. Yeah, without getting into, the technical part of it, I couldn't actually speak to with all the security and everything that's in place, but they're both programs are above the basis of what is needed. They understand they're operating in the legal space, so they go the extra mile to make sure that stuff is in place. And when you're using some of the feedback you get, like the client sentiment through case status, that's a closed system. It's only looking at the communication that has gone back and forth between your office and the client themselves. So there's no real concern that that's running off, to some website to get mixed up with a bunch of other data and then sent back to you. It's all a very closed system, and so we really don't have much of a concern after the initial onboarding and explanation to our tech department that they're meeting all the benchmarks that are needed. So we all know we have clients that whoever they're dealing with is not the right person. They want somebody up the chain to talk to. So those situations still happen with me from operations on day to day if somebody else isn't available at that time. And so with the case summary, it gives me a heads up as to basically what I'm walking into. The tone of the feedback that I'm getting is going to kind of give me just a little bit of time to know what I may be facing when I do make that phone call to try to smooth out a rough situation with a client. One other thing I would add, going back to personnel and bringing entry-level people up to average, it also works on the other end. You get these NPS scores back and you can look at them and say, okay, why are we getting these bad scores? Is it a particular person? Is there training that needs to be done for the main contact of the firm, the case manager that's on that? And if it's consistent with it, then you may, it gives you a little heads up that you may have a bigger problem than just, somebody that's not good at responding. It may be somebody that's just in the wrong seat at the firm. The way we tracked client satisfaction, and I think a lot of firms did it this way, was at the end when it's too late, right? You get a bad feedback after, well, it took too long, or my case manager wasn't responsive, or I never heard from my attorney, or whatever it may be. But it's after you can fix that problem. The good part about case status is when you move from phases of the case that you design, it gives the client an opportunity to submit an NPS score, the Net Promoter Score, and it allows you to get out ahead of potential issues in terms of where the client is at. And again, this heads back towards the client intelligence, like how are they feeling moving through the different phases of the case. And so, if you're not getting a 10 or a 9 and 8 comes in, that gives you an opportunity to just make a phone call and say, what is there something else that we could be doing that would make you happier? And a lot of times folks are like, well, no, I mean, I thought an 8 was a decent score, but it gives you that opportunity to have that interaction with the client, to just further strengthen, the relationship that you have with them. You get less inbound calls because there's other features in it than outside of just the text. You can set reminders inside case status to send an automatic reminder about an appointment, or you provide information or videos within the app itself. So when they come in and say, okay, your case is now moved into the negotiation phase, and they say, I'm going to give them a call and ask them what's going to go on in that. It's like, no, there's a canned video in there of you talking directly to your clients, letting them know what to expect, timeframes, hurdles that may be needed to jump over in that phase. So as opposed to them just instinctively saying, well, I need to know more about this, they're given their own opportunity to learn. And if that's not adequate enough, they'll maybe make that call. But we've seen our calls go down.